Elias Varn never imagined he'd be part of space politics. But when he's dragged into a galactic summit between powerful factions, he's forced to navigate a deadly game of diplomacy. Especially when the summit begins with a bite, not from a beast, but from a woman. She is Kaelith, delegate of the Vyrn, with skin like burnished bronze and eyes that burn with the heat of 1,000 suns. She doesn't just lead the debate, she challenges everything Elias knows about himself. When she bites him in a heated argument and claims him as her mate, Elias is thrust into a bond he never asked for, and a potential galactic war he never expected. Bound by a connection he never chose, Elias must now navigate a delicate alliance with Kaelith, uncover a conspiracy to destroy the peace, and stop a war before it's too late. But with the flames of fate burning between them, can he keep his freedom, or will he be claimed by a force beyond his control? If you want to see how Elias and Kaelith's story unfolds, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more intergalactic adventures. The Etherean space station spun like a silver coin against the velvet black of the galaxy, its corridors gleaming with polished metal and pulsing with the hum of 1,000 machines. Elias Varn, ex-pilot and self-proclaimed galactic drifter, swaggered through its bustling central hub, dodging a hovering drone delivering what smelled like glowing squid jerky. The air buzzed with voices, hisses, clicks, and melodic warbles from species he couldn't begin to name. A Zycar merchant, scales glinting like emeralds, haggled over a crate of bioluminescent fruit, while a feathered creature with too many eyes fluttered past, leaving a trail of iridescent dust. Through towering windows, nebulas swirled in purples and blues, a cosmic painting that made Elias's old pilot heart skip a beat. "Not exactly the dive bars I'm used to," he muttered, adjusting the collar of his worn flight jacket. "But I'll take a shiny space mall over a dogfight any day." He wasn't supposed to be here. 3 days ago, he'd been nursing a cheap synth beer on a backwater moon, dodging calls from anyone who smelled like responsibility. Then Taryn Holt, some high and mighty diplomat with a voice like a laser cutter, had dragged him into this mess. Emergency delegate, she called it, after the real human rep conveniently fell ill. Elias suspected food poisoning was code for ran screaming from the politics. Now here he was about to waltz into a galactic summit to argue about who owned what asteroid. "Me, a diplomat?" he snorted, sidestepping a robot polishing the floor. "Yeah, right. I'm more likely to start a bar fight than a peace treaty." His boots echoed as he passed a marketplace stall where a tentacled vendor waved a glowing orb. "Memory crystals. Relive your wildest dreams," it chirped. Elias waved it off, smirking. "Buddy, my dreams would break your tech." But his grin faded as he caught his reflection in a nearby panel. Tousled brown hair, stubble that screamed, "I don't care," and hazel eyes that hadn't sparkled since his last dogfight. 5 years ago, he'd led a squadron against pirate raiders, dodging plasma bolts like a cosmic dancer. Then one bad call, one misjudged maneuver, and half his team was gone. Now, he flew solo. Always. "Get it together, Varn," he told himself, straightening his jacket. "Walk in, nod at the aliens, don't punch anyone. Easy." The summit chamber loomed ahead, a massive dome with walls that shimmered like liquid starlight. Inside, a circular table held delegates from a dozen species. A Zycar with claws that could shred steel, an AI orb pulsing with data streams, and a feathered thing that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Elias's stomach did a flip. "Great. I'm the human equivalent of a discount menu item." Then he saw her. She stood at the far end, commanding the room without even trying. Kaelith of the Vyrn, according to the briefing Holt had shoved at him. Her skin glowed like burnished bronze, catching the light in a way that made Elias forget how to blink. Jet black hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of midnight, swaying with each deliberate step. Her eyes, golden molten like twin suns, locked onto him, and he swore the air got 10 degrees hotter. A sinuous tail curled around her hip, moving like it had a mind of its own, and a star-shaped pendant hung at her throat, glinting with secrets. Her outfit, a mix of leather and woven vines, hug curves that could launch 1,000 ships or crash them. "Whoa," Elias breathed and caught himself. Focus, Varn. She's probably here to eat you, not date you. Kaelith's voice cut through the room like a blade. The humans claim neutrality, yet their mining drones strip our sacred moons bare. Tell me, delegate. She spat the word like it tasted bad. How do you justify this? Elias raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. Lady, I'm just the guy who showed up with a pulse. But if we're throwing accusations, I've got data saying Vyrn raiders hit our convoys last cycle. Care to explain that? Her eyes narrowed, tail flicking like a whip. You dare accuse my kin? Those convoys carried our stolen relics. Stolen? Or maybe you just misplaced them during a bad moon party. Elias shot back, grinning despite himself. The room tensed. Zykar claws twitched, the AI orb flickered, but he couldn't stop. Look, I'm all for peace, but let's stick to facts. Your moons? Half are uninhabited. Our drones? They're just vacuum cleaners for rocks. Kaelith stepped closer, her scent hitting him like spiced wine. Wild, intoxicating. Facts, she hissed. You humans twist truth like cowards. Our moons are alive. They sing to us. Your machines defile them. Okay, singing rocks, got it, Elias said, hands up. But defiling? That a bit dramatic, don't you think? Unless your moons are filing complaints. Enough. Kaelith's voice roared, and before Elias could blink, she was on him. One leap, fluid as a predator, and she pinned him against the table. Her breath grazed his neck, hot as a desert wind, and then, chomp. Sharp teeth sank into his skin, not deep, but enough to draw a thin line of blood. Pain flared, followed by a strange, electric heat that raced down his spine. Whoa, personal space. Elias yelped, shoving her back. He touched his neck, fingers coming away red. What the hell was that? You bit me. Kaelith stepped back, chest heaving, eyes wide, not with anger but something else. Something that made Elias's pulse do cartwheels. The Starfang, she said, voice low, almost reverent. You are mine now. My mate. For life. The room exploded. Mate, Elias sputtered, bolting upright. Lady, I didn't even buy you a drink yet. A Zykar delegate roared, slamming a claw on the table. This is an outrage. The human provoked her. Provoked. Elias shot back. I was just sitting here being charming. She's the one playing vampire. The AI orb pulsed erratically, its voice glitching. Translating, mater. Engaged? Proposal accepted. Proposal. Elias's jaw dropped. No one's proposing. I'm not even dressed for a wedding. A feathered delegate chirped, wings flapping. The Vyrn ritual is sacred. To reject, it is war. War? Over a bite. Elias turned to Kaelith, who stood frozen, her tail twitching. Okay, Fangs explained. Now, what's this Starfang nonsense? Kaelith's eyes met his, and for a second he saw something raw. Vulnerability, maybe. It is not nonsense, she said, softer now. The Starfang is rare. A bond. It happens when a Vyrn feels. She hesitated, cheeks darkening. The fire of fate. I did not choose this. It chose us. Us. Elias laughed, a bit too loud. Oh, no. I'm not the fated mate type. I'm more the solo pizza and bad holoflix guy. You got the wrong human, sweetheart. Sweetheart. Kaelith's tail snapped, eyes flashing. You mock me, yet the mark burns on your skin. You feel it. He opened his mouth to argue, but damn if she wasn't right. His neck tingled, like a live wire humming under his skin, and every time she moved closer, his heart did a stupid little jig. Okay, fine, he said, crossing his arms. Maybe I feel something, but I'm not signing up for alien marriage over one nibble. What's next? Matching tattoos. The Zykar growled again. The human insults the Vyrn. This summit is doomed. Doomed. Elias spun toward them. You're all acting like I proposed a cage match. She bit me. I'm the victim here. Victim. Kaelith's voice was a low purr, and she stepped closer, her scent wrapping around him like a spell. You argued with fire in your eyes, human. You challenged me. The Starfang does not lie. Elias swallowed hard, her gaze pinning him like a laser. Look, I argue with everyone. It's my face's default setting. Doesn't mean I'm ready to pick out curtains with you. Terrenholt's voice cut through, sharp as a blade. Enough, both of you. The human diplomat stormed in, her tablet glowing with urgent messages. Varn, sit down. Kaelith, explain yourself before this turns into a galactic incident. Kaelith squared her shoulders, tail curling defiantly. The Starfang is sacred. It binds two souls under the stars. To break it is to curse both. She glanced at Elias, softer now. I did not intend this. But it is done. Done. Elias threw up his hands. Nothing's done. I didn't sign a contract. Where's the fine print? The exit clause. Holt, pinch your nose. Varn, shut up for 5 seconds. Kaelith, you're saying he's your mate? Permanently. Permanently, Kaelith said, and Elias swore her eyes flickered with something like regret. The fire chose him. I cannot undo it. Fantastic, Elias muttered. I come to talk rocks, and now I'm hitched to a space panther. My life's a sitcom. The AI orbed word back to life. Proposal status, confirmed. Updating diplomatic records. No updating. Elias snapped. Unconfirm it. Delete the file. Holt glared at him. Varn, you're not helping. Kaelith, what does this mean for the summit? Kaelith's jaw tightened. If he rejects the bond, my kin will see it as dishonor. War could follow. War. Elias's voice hit a new octave. Over a hickey? Are you kidding me? It is not a hickey, Kaelith said, her tail flicking his leg. Deliberately, he was sure. It is a vow. One you provoked. Provoked. Elias leaned closer, grinning despite the chaos. All I did was call you Moon's Dusty. If that's a vow, I'm married to half the galaxy by now. Her lips twitched, almost a smile, but her eyes stayed fierce. You are infuriating, human. Yeah, it's a gift, he said, winking. So what's the deal? We fake date to save the galaxy. Or do I need to buy a ring? Holt groaned. Both of you stop. We need a recess. Kaelith, Varn, you're confined to quarters until we sort this out. Move. Confined? With her. Elias pointed at Kaelith, who raised a brow, tail swaying like a tease. Oh, this is going to be a blast. Kaelith stepped closer, her voice dropping to a husky whisper. Be careful, Elias Varn. The fire of fate burns hot, and you're already caught in its flames. He met her gaze, heart pounding way too fast for his liking. Yeah? Well, I've dodged worse fires, Fangs. Let's see who burns first. As guards ushered them out, the summit chamber buzzed with whispers, Zycar growls, AI glitches, and feathered chirps. Elias's neck still tingled, Kaelith's scent lingered, and he had a sinking feeling this was just the start of something way bigger than a bite. The door to the neutral cabin slid shut with a hiss that sounded way too final for Elias Varn's liking. The room was a study in sleek minimalism, walls glowing with soft blue light, like the bottom of some alien ocean, and a single viewport framing a swirl of distant stars. 2 narrow beds sat on opposite sides, divided by a flimsy curtain that looked like it'd collapse if you sneezed. A low table held a pile of data pads, and the air carried a faint, heady scent, something herbal, wild, like a forest after rain. Elias's eyes flicked to Kaelith's duffel bag in the corner, where a glinting Vyrn dagger and a star-shaped pendant spilled out, catching the light like they were daring him to touch them. Cozy, Elias said, tossing his jacket onto a bed. If by cozy you mean intergalactic jail cell. Gotta hand it to Holt. She knows how to punish with style. Kaelith stood by the viewport, arms crossed, her tail swaying like a metronome. Her bronze skin shimmered under the cabin's glow, and her black hair fell in waves that made Elias want to, not think about that. Her eyes, those molten gold pools, flicked to him, sharp enough to cut through his bravado. You talk too much, human, she said, voice low, like a warning wrapped in velvet. Yeah, it's a feature, not a bug, Elias shot back, grinning. He kicked off his boots, sprawling onto his bed with the grace of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. So, Fangs, this is the plan? We're roommates until the galaxy decides we're not a diplomatic disaster. Do not call me that, Kaelith snapped, tail flicking his direction. It grazed his ankle, and he swore it wasn't an accident. And yes, Holt believes proximity will stabilize us. Stabilize? Elias snorted, propping himself on an elbow. What am I, a reactor core? Look, I'm all for team building, but I'd rather not share a bunk with someone who thinks I'm a chew toy. Her lips twitched, almost a smile, but she turned away, staring out at the stars. The Starfang is not a game, Elias Varn. It binds us. I feel you even now. Her voice softened, and damn if it didn't send a shiver down his spine. Your heartbeat. Your restlessness. He sat up, neck tingling where she'd bitten him. It wasn't pain, not exactly. More like a low hum, like someone had wired his nerves to her frequency. Okay, that's creepy, he said, rubbing the mark. You're saying you've got a Varn tracker in your head? What's next? You know when I'm craving tacos. She glanced over her shoulder, one brow arched. Tacos. Forget it. Point is, I didn't sign up for psychic roommate vibes. He stood, pacing the small space, his reflection bouncing off the glossy walls. The truth was, he did feel something. Her presence, like a warm current, pulling him closer every time she moved. And that scared him more than any dogfight. His last relationship, a fiery pilot named Lena, had crashed and burned faster than a meteor. She'd called him too reckless, then left him with nothing but a broken hollow frame and a habit of dodging commitment. Listen, Kaelith, he said, stopping a safe distance away. I get it. You've got your sacred bite thing. But me? I'm not built for whatever this is. HFY solo. Always have. She turned fully now, stepping closer, her scent hitting him like a wave. Herbs, spice, and something dangerously alive. Solo, she said, voice dripping with challenge. You argue like a man who wants to be heard. You provoked me. The fire chose you. Provoked? I was just doing my job, badly sure, but still. He grinned, leaning against the table. And fire? Sweetheart, I'm more of a sparkler guy. Low risk, lots of shine. Her tail flicked again, brushing his leg deliberately this time. You hide behind words, but your eyes betray you, she murmured. You feel the bond. Deny it, and it will burn hotter. Elias's grin faltered. Her gaze was doing things to his pulse, bad, stupid things. Okay, let's pump the brakes, he said, holding up a hand. You're intense, I'll give you that. But I'm not diving headfirst into alien soulmate territory. How about we start with, I don't know, not biting each other? Kaelith's laugh was low, almost predatory. You think you can negotiate fate, Elias Varn? Negotiate? Baby, I'm the king of loopholes. He winked, but his heart wasn't in it. That damn tingle in his neck was spreading, and every time she said his name, it felt like a hook sinking deeper. He turned to the table, grabbing a data pad to distract himself. His fingers brushed something cool. Her Vyrn dagger, its blade etched with swirling stars. Nice knife, he said, holding it up. Planning to carve your initials in me next? Careful, Kaelith said, stepping beside him. Her arm grazed his, and the air crackled. That blade is older than your species. It cuts deeper than you know. Sounds like my kind of trouble, he quipped, setting it down. He reached for the data pad again, but Kaelith moved at the same time, her hand landing on his. Her skin was impossibly soft, like silk warmed by a star, but it burned too, like touching a live wire. Elias froze, his breath catching. Her pulse thrummed under his fingers, fast, alive, and way too close. Whoa, he said, voice rougher than he meant. You always this warm? Kaelith's eyes flared, gold sparking like a supernova. She didn't pull away, just leaned closer, her breath a whisper against his cheek. Koi chung, Phi Tsong, she said, voice husky. You're playing with fire. He swallowed, his usual snark stuck somewhere in his throat. Her wrist under his fingers felt like a lifeline, and for one stupid second, he didn't want to let go. Her scent wrapped around him, pulling him in, and those eyes, God, they could make a man forget his own name. Fire. Huh? He managed, forcing a grin. Guess I forgot my extinguisher. She hiked in a sharp breath, then slid her hand free, slow, deliberate, like she was savoring the contact. You test me, Elias, she said, stepping back. But the bond does not lie. Yeah, well, bonds and I don't exactly get along, he said, rubbing his hand like it had been scalded. His heart was doing laps, and he didn't trust himself to look at her. Let's just stick to surviving this time out, okay? Before she could answer, the datapad on the table flickered to life, unprompted. A distorted voice crackled through, cold and mechanical. Elias Varn, human delegate, you're compromised. Surrender to security or face termination. Elias stared at the screen, his smirk gone. Okay, that's new. And not the fun kind of new. Kaelith's tail snapped upright, her nostrils flaring. She leaned over the table, sniffing the air like a hunter. Metal, she said, voice sharp. Not from the cabin. Something foreign. Foreign. Elias raised a brow, tapping the datapad. The message looped, accusing him of leaking Summit secrets. This is a hack, Fangs. Someone's trying to pin me as a traitor. Gotta say, I'm flattered they think I'm that interesting. Do not jest, Kaelith said, her eyes scanning the room. This scent, it's sharp like plasma residue. Someone tampered with this device. Tampered? Great. Elias ran a hand through his hair. So we're locked in a box, bonded by your cosmic love bite, and now someone's framing me for galactic espionage. My Monday's off to a stellar start. Kaelith ignored him, crouching to inspect the datapad's base. Her tail brushed his leg again, definitely not an accident, and he bit back a curse. Focus, human, she said, but her voice had a teasing edge. Your enemies are clever. We must be cleverer. He crossed his arms, leaning closer despite himself. Oh, now we're a team? What happened to your mind forever? Her lips curved, just a hint. You are mine, but I'm also curious about you. She stood too close, her scent dizzying. Help me find this threat, and perhaps I'll spare you another bite. Spare me? Generous, he said, but his grin was back. Fine, Fangs. Let's play detective. But if we're stuck together, you're learning my rules. Rule 1. No more surprise dental work. Rule 1, she countered, eyes glinting, is you stop calling me Fangs. No deal, he said, winking. It's growing on me. A sharp knock interrupted them, and the door slid open to reveal Taryn Holt, her face a mask of exasperation. Varn, Kaelith, care to explain why I'm getting reports of security breach tied to this cabin? Breach? Elias held up the datapad, still looping its creepy message. Yeah, about that. Someone's decided I'm public enemy number 1. Want to join the fan club? Holt's eyes narrowed, flicking to Kaelith. Is this VYRN tech? Some kind of ritual sabotage? Kaelith bristled, tail snapping. You accuse me? My kin do not stoop to such deceit. The Starfang is honor, not a weapon. Honor. Holt scoffed. You but a delegate. Forgive me if I'm skeptical. Hey, ease up. Elias cut in, surprising himself. She's not the hacking type. Trust me, I know. She's too busy glaring at me to mess with tech. Kaelith's gaze softened for a split second, but her voice stayed firm. The scent I found is not VYRN. It is other. We will find the source. Holt raised a brow. You two can barely share a room without starting a war. War's overrated, Elias said, tossing the data pad to Holt. Besides, I'm kind of curious who's got out for me. Me and Fangs here, we're going to crack this. Right, partner? Kaelith's tail grazed his arm, slow and deliberate. Do not test my patience, Elias, she said, but her eyes sparkled with something dangerously close to amusement. Partner for now. Holt sighed, pinching her nose. Fine, stay here. Don't touch anything. I'll lock down the cabin until we trace this signal. And Varn, try not to make this worse. No promises, Elias called as she left. The door hissed shut, sealing them in again. He turned to Kaelith, who was watching him like a cat sizing up a particularly interesting mouse. So, he said, leaning against the wall, you and me a hacked message and a whole lot of cosmic weirdness. What's your play, Fangs? Kaelith stepped closer, her voice a low purr. My play? To learn you, Elias Varn. Every spark, every flaw. The Starfang demands it. He swallowed, his neck tingling hotter than ever. Yeah? Well, good luck. I'm a tough read. Her smile was slow, dangerous. I like a challenge. The summit chamber buzzed with tension, like a plasma coil about to blow. Elias Varn slouched in his chair, trying to look like he belonged among the galaxy's finest diplomats instead of a guy who'd rather be tinkering with a busted starship. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and alien pheromones. Zycar delegates hissed over trade routes. An AI orb droned about data protocols, and Kaelith, oh man, Kaelith. She stood across the table, bronze skin catching the light like a damn supernova, her golden eyes flicking to him every few seconds. That Starfang bite on his neck tingled like she was still there, teeth and all. "Focus, Varn," he muttered under his breath, twirling his stylus. "Don't stare at the space panther. You're here to nod and not start a war." "Human," Kaelith's voice cut through, sharp and smoky. "You disagree with the Zycar proposal?" Elias snapped upright, caught off guard. Yeah, sure. I mean, no offense to Scaly over there," he nodded at the Zycar, who growled. "But locking down neutral zone sounds like a fancy way to say we're stealing your stuff." "Am I wrong?" The Zycar's claws scraped the table. "Insolent primate. You question our honor." "Question? Nah. I'm just saying it smells fishy," Elias said, grinning. "No offense. Fish are great. Love a good sushi roll." Kaelith's tail flicked, her lips twitching like she was fighting a smile. "You speak recklessly, Elias Varn." "Recklessly? I call it charm," he shot back, winking. "You should try it sometime, Fangs. Might loosen you up." Before she could fire back, the world exploded. A deafening boom shook the chamber, and the viewport behind Kaelith shattered like a galaxy collapsing. Glass sprayed inward, glinting like a rain of meteorites, and thick black smoke coiled through the breach, alive with menace. Screams erupted. Zycar roared. The AI orb screeched static, and Elias dove under the table, heart pounding. "Holy crap," he yelled, coughing as smoke stung his lungs. "Who ordered the fireworks?" Then he saw her, Kaelith, moving like a silver whirlwind. Her tail lashed out, knocking a jagged shard away from him, and she lunged, tackling him to the floor. Her body pressed against his, solid and warm, shielding him as more glass rained down. "Stay down, fool," she hissed, her breath hot against his ear. "Fool? I'm the guy getting squashed here." Elias gasped, but damn if his pulse wasn't racing for all the wrong reasons. Her weight on him, her scent, wild herbs, and starfire, made his head spin. "Also, you're heavy for a cat lady." "Silence," she snapped, but her tail curled protectively around his leg. The smoke cleared slightly, and she rolled off, pulling him to his feet. "Move now." He stumbled after her, dodging debris as alarms blared. The chamber was chaos. Delegates scrambled, guards shouted, and that AI orb was still glitching like a drunk DJ. Kaelith dragged him into a side corridor, its walls flickering with emergency red lights. She shoved him against a panel, checking for threats, her eyes blazing. "Okay, time out," Elias said, catching his breath. "What the hell was that? Someone forget to pay the electric bill?" "An attack," Kaelith said, sniffing the air. Her tail twitched, brushing his hip, definitely not accidental. The scent, plasma, and metal. Not an accident. Attack. He ran a hand through his hair, glass dust falling like dandruff. "Great. I survived your love bite, and now someone's trying to blow me up. My fan club's getting creative." Her gaze snapped to him, fierce but worried. "You're unharmed." "Unharmed? I'm a walking bruise," he said, then noticed a thin cut on her shoulder, bronze skin streaked with blood. "But you're not." "Hold up, Fangs, you're leaking." "It's nothing," she said, brushing it off, but he grabbed her arm, gently for once. "Nothing? Yeah, right. Seat." He scanned the corridor, spotting a medkit bolted to the wall. The lights flickered, casting shadows that made Kaelith look like a statue carved from starlight. He pried the kit open, pulling out bandages and antiseptic. "Come on, let's play doctor. No funny business, I swear." Kaelith raised a brow, easing onto a crate. "You swearing to behave?" "I doubt it." "Hey, I'm a gentleman sometimes," he said, grinning as he knelt beside her. The cut wasn't deep, but it ran along the curve of her shoulder, where muscle met grace in a way that made his mouth dry. He dabbed antiseptic on a cloth, his fingers brushing her skin, hot, smooth, like a living flame. "Hold still, Fangs. This might sting." She hissed softly as he cleaned the wound, her tail curling tighter around his ankle. You distract me, she murmured, voice low, almost a purr. Distract. He looked up, meeting her eyes, gold, endless, like they could swallow him whole. His hand lingered on her shoulder, tracing the contour of muscle, and damn if his heart didn't skip. Good, 'cause you're doing a number on me, too. For a moment, neither moved. Her breath quickened, warm against his cheek, and her skin under his fingers felt like a secret he wasn't supposed to know. Elias, she whispered, you tread on dangerous ground. Danger's my middle name, he said, voice rougher than he meant. He forced himself to focus, wrapping the bandage around her shoulder, but his fingers lingered, brushing the edge of her collarbone. Well, technically it's James, but you get the idea. She leaned closer, just a fraction, her tail sliding up his calf. You taught to hide your fear, she said, eyes locked on his. But I see you. See me? He swallowed, grin faltering. Hope you like what you see, 'cause I'm not sure I do. Her lips parted, like she might say more, but a clatter down the corridor broke the spell. Elias stood, helping her up, his hand lingering on hers a second too long. Okay, Doc's orders. No more heroics till we figure out who's playing Demolition Derby. Kaelith's tail flicked free, but her gaze stayed on him, intense. We find them together. Together? He smirked, grabbing the medkit. Guess I'm stuck with you, Fangs. Let's hunt. They moved deeper into the station, passing a recycling plant where machines groaned like dying beasts, their lights casting eerie glows on Kaelith's skin. Elias's neck tingled again, that Starfang bond pulsing like a second heartbeat. He shook it off, focusing on a pile of debris near the blast site. Check this out, he said, crouching by a twisted metal shard. It was etched with strange runes, glowing faintly purple. Not standard tech. Looks, Zycar maybe? Kaelith sniffed it, nose wrinkling. Zycar, but mixed. Something else, synthetic cold. She handed it to him, her fingers brushing his, sending a jolt through his arm. A hybrid weapon. Hybrid? Like alien tech smoothie? He turned the shard over, frowning. This isn't just a bomb. Someone's cooking up serious trouble. Trouble you attract, Kaelith said, but her tone was teasing now. You are a magnet for chaos, Elias Varn. Chaos? I'm a delight, he said, pocketing the shard. Come on, let's hack some cameras. If someone's gunning for us, I want to know who. They found a security terminal in a quiet alcove, its screen flickering with static. Elias cracked his knuckles, diving into the interface like an old friend. All right, Tech, sing for Papa, he muttered, pulling up grainy footage of the summit chamber. Kaelith leaned over his shoulder, her hair brushing his neck, and he nearly forgot how to type. Focus, she said, but her tail grazed his back, slow and deliberate. Trying, he said through gritted teeth. But you're not making it easy, Fangs. She chuckled, low and dangerous. Good. The footage showed a shadow moving before the blast. Too fast, too sleek for a delegate. Gotcha, Elias said, zooming in. Not Zycar. Not human. Maybe Merc Tech? Looks like pro work. Ling Dang Toy, Galit Gao, Havi Naxen Tiken. I know their stench. Betrayers in the dark. Betrayers? Sounds like a story. He glanced at her, curious despite himself. Spiel, Fangs. What's the Vyrn take on sneaky bastards? She hesitated, then spoke, voice soft but heavy. Long ago, a Vyrn warrior sold our sacred stars to outsiders. The skies wept blood. We call such traitors Umbravir, shadows without honor. Damn, Elias said, genuinely impressed. Your legends don't mess around. Okay, so we're dealing with space traitors. Any chance they're just bad at party planning? Her lips twitched again. You jest, but this is no game. Everything's a game if you squint, he said, saving the footage. Let's keep moving before. A guard's voice interrupted, harsh through the gloom. Vyrn, step away from the human. You're under suspicion for the blast. Kaelith tensed, claws flexing, but Elias stepped in front. Hands up. Whoa, easy, buddy. She's with me. You want to point fingers, try the guy who turned the summit into a piñata. The guard, a human with a buzz cut and a bad attitude, sneered. Her kind can't be trusted. Step aside, Varn. Her kind. Elias's grin turned sharp. Last I checked, she saved my ass back there. You got evidence? Or you just don't like her tale? Kaelith's eyes flicked to him, gold softening like moonlight. You need not defend me, she said quietly. Yeah, well I wanted, he said, meeting her gaze. Call my cardio for the day. The guard backed off, muttering, but Kaelith's tail brushed Elias's hand. A silent thank you. You surprise me, human, she said as they moved on. Stick around, Fangs, he said, smirking. I'm full of surprises. They slipped into a garden module, where glowing vines pulsed like heartbeats, casting Kaelith's face in ethereal light. Elias's neck burned hotter, the bond pulling him closer to her, and he wondered, not for the first time, if he was in way over his head. The Etherean's lower decks were a labyrinth of shadows, where flickering lights danced like ghosts and the hum of machinery growled like a sleeping beast. Elias Varn crept through a narrow corridor, his boots barely whispering against the cold metal floor. Beside him, Kaelith moved like liquid starlight, her bronze skin catching the faint glow of emergency panels, her tail swaying with predatory grace. The air was heavy, thick with the tang of coolant and something sharper. Danger, maybe, or just the electric pull of her presence. Elias's neck tingled where she'd bitten him, the Starfang bond buzzing like a live wire, and he was starting to think it wasn't just his imagination. Remind me why I'm sneaking around like a space ninja, he whispered, ducking under a low pipe. I could be eating replicated pizza right now. Kaelith's golden eyes flicked to him, glinting with amusement. Because, Elias Varn, you're too curious to resist. And you like my company. Like? That's a strong word, he said, grinning. Let's go with tolerate. Barely. You're a lot, Fangs. Fangs, she repeated, her voice a low purr that did bad things to his pulse. You test my patience, human. Yeah, it's a gift, he shot back, pausing at a sealed hatch. Its control panel pulsed red, like the eye of some mechanical monster. Okay, secret lair number 1. But it's full of evil plans and bad coffee. Kaelith crouched beside him, her tail brushing his leg, deliberate, he was sure. Focus, she said, but her lips twitched. Can you open it? Can I open it? He scoffed, pulling a multi-tool from his jacket. Sweetheart, I was cracking locks while you were still sharpening your claws. Jimasek. Her tail flicked his hip, sharper this time. Call me sweetheart again, and you'll regret it. Promise. He winked, prying the panel open. Wires sparked, and he worked fast, rerouting circuits like a pianist playing a deadly tune. Come on, baby, sing for me, he muttered to the tech. The hatch hissed, grinding open to reveal a pitch-black chamber. Screens lined the walls, flickering with data streams that looked way too sinister for a diplomatic station. Creepy, Elias said, stepping inside. $10, says we find a villain monologue recorded in here. Kaelith followed, her claws flexing. Stay sharp. I smell metal. Cold. Not right. Not right's my middle name. He quipped, then caught her look. Kidding. Let's snoop. They moved deeper, the screens casting eerie light on Kaelith's hair, which flowed like a dark river. Elias's fingers danced over a console, pulling up encrypted files. Jackpot, he said, as garbled audio filled the room, a voice distorted, mimicking Terran-Holt's clipped tones. Initiate Phase 2. Escalate Vyrn Zykar tensions. War is profitable. Whoa, Elias said, freezing. That's not Holt. Someone's playing ventriloquist with her voice. Kaelith's tail snapped upright. Ling dang tui si ge dao. I know their tricks. Cowards who sell peace for credits. Mercs, huh? Figures. He dug deeper, uncovering a name. Karath Vex, a shadowy tycoon with fingers in every black market from here to Andromeda. Looks like this Vex guy's bankrolling chaos. Wants the summit to crash and burn. Burn, Kaelith echoed, her voice heavy. My kin would suffer most. We must stop this. Stop it. Oh, we're going to do more than that, Elias said, downloading the data. We're going to shove this in their faces and, heads up, a whirring noise cut him off, and a sleek android dropped from the ceiling, its eyes glowing red like twin lasers. Its limbs were razor-sharp, moving faster than should be legal. Elias dove behind a console, heart pounding. Okay, Rude. Who invited the murder bot? Kaelith didn't hesitate. She launched herself at it, claws flashing like lightning. Stay back, she snarled, her hair whipping like a storm as she slashed its arm. Sparks flew, but the android countered, its blade grazing her side. Like hell, Elias yelled, scrambling for a plan. He spotted a power conduit and yanked his multi-tool, jamming it into the wiring. Hey, Shiny, catch this. He flipped a switch, sending a surge through the floor. The android spasmed, circuits frying, and Kaelith seized the moment, tearing its core out with a roar. It collapsed, smoking, and she stood over it, chest heaving, hair wild like a dark halo. Holy crap, Elias said, climbing out. You're officially the coolest roommate I've ever had. She turned, a bead of sweat tracing her jaw, and smirked. You're welcome, human. Don't get cocky, he said, but his grin was genuine. Nice moves, though. Remind me not to piss you off. Too late, she said, stepping closer. Her tail grazed his arm, and he swore she was doing it on purpose. You excel at that. They moved to a corner to catch their breath, the chamber's lights dimming like a dying star. Elias sank against a wall, wincing as his bruised ribs complained. Kaelith started to sit, but her foot caught on a cable, and she stumbled right into him. He caught her instinctively, hands landing on her waist, and time screeched to a halt. Her body was warm, solid, like a tide pulling him under. His fingers slid lower, brushing the curve of her lower back, soft as cosmic waves but strong as a river carving stone. She froze, breath hitching, and turned in his arms, her face inches from his. Those golden eyes locked onto him, burning, and her scent, wild herbs, starfire, flooded his senses. Whoa, Elias said, voice rough. You okay, Fangs? Am I okay? She whispered, her breath hot against his lips. You're the one crossing lines, Elias. Her tail curled around his thigh, slow, deliberate, and he nearly forgot how to breathe. Lines? He swallowed, hand still on her, feeling her pulse race under his fingers. I'm just keeping you steady. Public service. Her lips curved, dangerous. You're on the edge, fight song. And I like it. He leaned closer, heart hammering. Yeah? Well, I'm not big on stopping. Her skin was electric under his touch, her curve a map he didn't dare explore. Not yet. But her eyes, God, they were pulling him in, promising things he wasn't sure he could handle. She pressed a hand to his chest, not pushing away, just feeling. Careful, she murmured. The Starfang burns hottest when you tempt it. Tempt. He grinned, shaky but game. I'm just standing here, being my charming self. Her laugh was soft, husky, and it hit him like a shot of whiskey. Charming, she said, stepping back, but her tail lingered, trailing down his leg like a tease. We'll see. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd held, running a hand through his hair. Okay, that was intense. Let's not do that again unless we've got a fire extinguisher handy. Kaelith's eyes sparkled, but she nodded to the console. The data. What now? Right. Data. Focus, Varn. He pulled the drive, clutching it like a lifeline. This proves someone's playing Puppet Master. Question is, do we go public? Could backfire big time. She crossed her arms, tail swaying. If we stay silent, the summit fails. My kin, your people, they'll pay the price. Yeah, but if we go loud, we're painting targets on our backs, he said, pacing. Karath Vex doesn't sound like the live and let live type. Kaelith stepped closer, her voice steady. I face danger with eyes open, Elias. Even if we fall, she hesitated, softer now. I don't regret biting you. He stopped, caught off guard. Really? Most folks would regret getting stuck with me. She smiled, small but real. Most folks lack my taste. He laughed, tension easing. Okay, Fangs, you win. I'm starting to like that bite, too. Let's do this. Take the data to the summit. Blow this thing wide open. Together, she asked, eyes searching his. Together, he said, holding her gaze. But if we die, I'm blaming you. Her tail flicked his wrist, playful. I'll take that risk. They slipped out of the chamber, the drive burning a hole in Elias's pocket. The station's hum felt louder now, like a heartbeat counting down. His neck tingled, Kaelith's presence a constant pull, and as they moved toward the summit hall, he couldn't shake the feeling that lines weren't just crossed. They were gone. The summit chamber of the Etherian was a cosmic arena, its domed ceiling shimmering like a frozen galaxy, casting flecks of starlight across a stone dais that pulsed with faint blue veins. Rows of delegates filled the tiered seats, Zykar with their glinting scales, AI, orbs hovering like judgmental lanterns, Vyrn warriors pounding their chests in rhythm, and humans shifting uneasily, their suits too stiff for the chaos of the moment. The air crackled with tension, thick with the sense of alien sweat and recycled oxygen, and Elias Varn stood at the center of it all, feeling like a guy who'd wandered into the wrong hollow flick. "Okay, Varn," he muttered, clutching the data drive in his pocket. "Time to sell the galaxy on not killing each other. No pressure." Kaelith stood beside him, her bronze skin glowing under the chamber's lights, her black hair cascading like a dark tide. Her golden eyes flicked to him, steady but warm, and her tail swayed just close enough to brush his wrist, a reminder of the Starfang bond humming between them. Elias's neck tingled, like her bite was whispering secrets he wasn't ready to hear. "Ready, Fangs?" he asked, flashing a grin. "Were you planning to bite someone else to liven things up?" Her lips twitched, a half-smile that hit him harder than it should. "Behave, Elias Varn," she said, voice low and smoky. "Or I might." "Promises, promises," he quipped, but his heart did a flip. He stepped to the dais, raising the drive like a trophy. "All right, folks, gather round. It's story time, and I've got a doozy." The Zykar delegate growled, claws scraping. "What trick is this, human? Your kind always scheme." "Scheme? Me?" Elias clutched his chest, mock offended. "I'm an open book. A charming book, if I do say so. But this," he plugged the drive into the dais's console, and screens flared to life. "This is the real deal. Take a listen." The distorted voice of Terran Holt filled the chamber, cold and calculated. "Initiate Phase 2. Escalate Vyrn Zykar tensions. War is profitable." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zykar hissed, Vyrn snarled, and the AI orbs pulsed erratically, analyzing in real time. "Yeah, not Holt," Elias said, leaning into his pilot's swagger. "Someone's been playing dress-up with her voice. We traced it to a guy named Karath Vex, big-shot tycoon with a fetish for chaos. He's got mercs stirring the pot, trying to turn this summit into a galactic cage match." The lead Zykar slammed a claw down. "Lies. You humans deflect blame." "Lies?" Elias raised a brow, channeling every ounce of Tony Stark charm. "Buddy, I'm too lazy to lie. Check the data, timestamps, encryption, the works. Vex crew planted that bomb to pit you against the Vyrn. Classic divide and conquer, but with worse catering." Kaelith stepped forward, her presence silencing the room like a storm rolling in. "The human speaks truth," she said, her voice resonant, carrying the weight of centuries. "I smelled their treachery, metal cold, not of this station. They seek to drown our stars in blood." A Vyrn elder stood, pounding his chest. "Kaelith speaks for us. The Starfang marks her as chosen." "Chosen, huh?" Elias muttered, glancing at her. "Guess I'm a lucky +1. She ignored him, her tail flicking his leg, definitely on purpose. "My kin know a legend," she said, addressing the chamber. "The flame of two, born when souls bridge worlds. Long ago, a Vyrn and a wanderer forged peace under dying stars, their bond a beacon. She hesitated, glancing at Elias, softer now. "I see that flame here. Between us. Between all of us." The chamber fell silent, her words hanging like stardust. Elias blinked, caught off guard. "Damn, Fangs," he whispered. "You're good." "Your turn," she murmured, eyes glinting. "Don't ruin it." "Ruin? I'm a pro," he said, stepping up. "Look, I'm no poet like my partner here, but I've got numbers." "Vex plan? It's about credits, mining rights, trade routes, you name it. If we fight, he wins. If we don't," he grinned, spreading his hands. We all get to go home and binge our favorite shows. Who's with me? A human delegate scoffed. You expect us to trust a Vyrn? After she bit you? Bite's the least of my problems, Elias said, rubbing his neck. Trust me, she's solid. Saved my ass more times than I can count this week. And yeah, we're complicated. But that's the point. Complications don't have to mean war. Kaelith's tail brushed his hand, a silent nod. The Starfang is not a chain, she said. It is a bridge. Elias and I stand as proof. Two worlds can meet, not clash. The AI orb hummed, its voice flat but clear. Data verified. Vex accounts link to mercenary activity. Probability of human Vyrn collusion, 92%. See? Even the Global agrees, Elias said, pointing. So what's it gonna be? Peace or galactic free-for-all? The Zykar delegate rose, slower this time, claws sheathed. If the Vyrn trusts this human, we will consider peace. Consider? Elias snorted. Smo? Skeli? Kumi. You know you want to. A ripple of laughter broke the tension. Vyrn thumped their chests, humans chuckled, and even the AI orb flickered like it was amused. Taryn Holt stood, her face a mix of exhaustion and approval. Varn, you're a headache, but you're not wrong. I propose a new heap UOC, one that protect cross-species bonds like whatever you two have. Whatever. Elias clutched his heart. Holt, you wound me. It's a cosmic love story, obviously. Kaelith's tail snapped his ankle, but her eyes sparkled. Be serious, Elias. Fine, fine, he said, raising his hands. EPOC sounds good. Protects us, protects peace. Who's in? The Vyrn elder roared approval, and the Zykar nodded, scales glinting. The AI orb pulsed green, agreement. Humans hesitated, but Holt's glare shut them up. Motion passes, she said. The Starfang bond is recognized. You two, don't make me regret this. No promises, Elias said, grinning as the chamber erupted in noise. Vyrn cheers, Zykar claps, and a few human grumbles. He leaned toward Kaelith, lowering his voice. We did it, Fangs. Galaxies not imploding today. She met his gaze, gold softening to moonlight. Not today, she said, her tail curling around his wrist, warm and deliberate. Thanks to you. Me? Nah, you're the star, he said, but his chest felt tight, like her words had snuck past his defenses. The crowd dispersed, delegates buzzing about the new heap UOC. Elias and Kaelith slipped out to a quiet balcony overlooking the station's core, a glowing sphere of energy like a caged sun. The stars beyond stretched endless, and for once Elias didn't feel like running. So, he said, leaning on the railing, we're officially a galactic power couple now. How's that sitting with you? Kaelith stood close, her shoulder brushing his. I did not expect to need you, Elias Varn, she said, voice soft, raw. But I do, and I want it. He turned, caught by the weight of her words. Yeah? Well, I didn't expect you either, Fangs. But now... He grinned, softer this time. I am kinda hooked. Her tail slid up his arm, lingering. Hooked, she echoed, eyes locking with his, like two stars merging in the void. Good. They stood there, the hum of the station fading, the galaxy spinning around them. Elias's neck burned, but it wasn't just the bite. It was her, all of her, pulling him into something bigger than he'd ever planned. And for the first time in years, he didn't want to fly solo. The Etherean's observatory was a cathedral of glass and starlight, its domed ceiling curving like a lover's embrace to reveal the galaxy in all its reckless glory. Nebulae swirled in purples and golds. Stars winked like they were in on a secret, and the vastness stretched out, daring anyone to feel small. Elias Varn stood at the center, his worn flight jacket looking wildly out of place against the polished floor, but his hazel eyes sparkled with something new. Hope? Maybe, or just the reflection of the cosmos. The Starfang bite on his neck pulsed softly, a quiet reminder of the woman beside him. Kaelith of the Vyrn was a vision, her bronze skin glowing like molten metal under the starlight, her black hair cascading in waves that seemed to drink the light. Her golden eyes held him, fierce but soft, and her tail swayed gently, brushing his wrist like a whispered promise. The air carried her scent, wild herbs, starfire, and something that made his chest ache in the best way. So, Elias said, hands in his pockets to keep from fidgeting, "This is it, huh? Our big moment. No pressure, Fangs." She tilted her head, a smile teasing her lips. "You're nervous, Elias Varn. I feel it." "Nervous? Me?" He scoffed, flashing a Tony Stark grin. "I'm cool as a comet. Just, not big on ceremonies. Last one I went had an open bar and bad karaoke." Her laugh was low, husky, like a spark catching fire. "This is no karaoke, human. This is us." "Us," he echoed, softer now, and damn if his heart didn't skip. He glanced at their witnesses. Only Taryn Holt, her face a mix of exasperation and pride, and a grizzled Vyrn elder, his fur streaked with silver, nodding solemnly. No crowd, no fanfare, just the stars and the weight of what they were about to do. The elder stepped forward, raising a star-shaped pendant etched with ancient runes. "Kaelith, daughter of the Vyrn," he intoned, "you have claimed this human under the Starfang. Do you bind your flame to his?" Kaelith's gaze never left Elias. "I do," she said, voice steady but thick with feeling. She took the pendant, its chain glinting like a comet's tail, and stepped closer. "Hold still, Elias. For once." "Still? That's a tall order," he quipped, but he froze as she looped the pendant around his neck. Her fingers brushed his skin, warm and deliberate, and the bite mark flared, sending a shiver down his spine. "Okay, wow. That's intense." "It's you," she said, eyes twinkling. "Always intense." He chuckled, digging into his jacket for his own offering, a jagged shard of metal, scorched from his old ship's hull, polished to a soft shine. "Not much," he said, holding it out. "Piece of my rig. Flew me through hell and back. Figured, maybe it's us too." Her breath caught, and she took it, cradling it like a relic. "It's perfect," she said, and the elder nodded, stepping back. Holt cleared her throat. "You two done being sappy? Say the words." "Bossy as ever," Elias muttered, then faced Kaelith, his grin softening. "All right, Fangs. I'm not good at this, but I'm yours. Stars bites, the whole deal. You cool with that?" Kaelith's tail curled around his ankle, warm and teasing. "I am yours, Elias Varn," she said, voice of vow wrapped in starlight. Flame to flame, now and always. He didn't plan it. Hell, he never planned anything. But his hands found her face, and he kissed her. Their lips met like two celestial bodies colliding, a spark that shook the universe. Her mouth was warm, fierce, giving as much as she took, and a galaxy spun around them, stars blurring into streaks of fire. He pulled her closer, her body fitting against his like they'd been carved from the same cosmic stone, and the world fell away. The kiss deepened, and time unraveled. It was more than lips, more than heat. It was light shattering into 1,000 fragments, darkness weaving them together like threads of a nebula. Their breaths tangled, a storm of want and surrender, and the stars seemed to pulse, as if the galaxy itself held its breath. Shadows merged, souls entwined in a dance older than time, fierce and tender, until the universe stilled, leaving only the rhythm of their hearts, beating as one. Elias pulled back, dazed, his forehead resting against hers. "Whoa," he breathed, voice rough. "That was galactic." Kaelith's laugh was soft, her eyes glowing like twin suns. "You have no idea, Fight Zone." "Pretty sure I do," he said, grinning, but his hand stayed on her waist, like letting go wasn't an option. The elder coughed politely, and Holt muttered something about paperwork, but Elias barely heard them. The stars were louder, and Kaelith was the loudest of all. They stepped to the observatory's edge, hand in hand, the pendant heavy against his chest. The galaxy stretched before them, endless and alive, and Elias felt something shift, like the universe had rearranged itself just for them. "So," he said, squeezing her hand, "what's next? You want to see Earth? Got beaches, burgers, maybe a few less explosions." "Earth," she said, tasting the word. "I want to see your skies." You're chaos. Chaos? Oh, you're gonna love it, he said, laughing. I'll show you the good stuff. Sunsets, dive bars, maybe a dog if we're lucky. Her tail flicked his leg, playful. And you? What do you want? He looked at her, really looked, and the quips died on his tongue. You, he said simply. Wherever we go, I want you there. Deal. Deal, she said, and her smile was brighter than any star. A soft beep broke the moment. A console in the corner flared, displaying a coded signal, sharp and urgent. Elias frowned, stepping over to scan it. Huh. Encrypted off-grid. Looks like our pal Vex hasn't given up yet. Kaelith's claws flexed, but her voice was calm. Let him come. We'll face him together. Together, Elias said, nodding. Gotta admit, I like the sound of that. They turned back to the stars, hands clasped, standing like two warriors awaiting dawn. The signal blinked, a faint warning, but it couldn't touch them. Not yet. Elias's thoughts drifted, quiet for once. He'd spent years running, dodging ties, chasing solitude. But now, Kaelith was his anchor, his fire, his home. The galaxy could throw whatever it wanted. They'd burn brighter.